Tavleen, let me start by asking you. You were very vocal in your criticism. From what I understand, the protests have mostly taken place in Shia enclaves, though not exclusively, but mostly or predominantly in Shia enclaves. It almost seems to be a point of religious affinity more than a kind of political position or a position in this Israel, Lebanon, Gaza, Iran conflict. Why were you so disturbed by it? It's not across the valley. It's a smattering of protests. But yes, it does seem to be the first sign of street protests of the kind that weren't even seen after the abrogation of Article 370. Tavleen Singh.
Yeah, I whether they're Shias or Sunnis, as far as I'm concerned, really doesn't make a difference. When you celebrate, or whatever it is, when you mourn the death of a terrorist, to me that is not a good thing to do. In my view, Nasrallah showed more than once that he was a terrorist, and Hezbollah has been like a kind of, we know that it's backed by Iran, but it's not an official organization. It is a terrorist organization. They've been responsible for endless numbers of terrorist, acts, and I don't support terrorists. That's the bottom line. I don't like it when anyone in India supports a terrorist, whether it's Shia, Sunni, Sikh, or Hindu. It's not something that I approve of.
And what do you make of the fact that these kind of solidarity marches are taking place? Do you see this as election season sort of rhetoric? Do you think it reflects something more?
I think it reflects a lot more. I've been in Kashmir a little bit earlier, not during the election, and you've been there. Are you still there? Are you still there?
No, I'm back now. I'm back now. Yeah.
But under the surface calm, there is a kind of bubbling up of Kashmiri feelings against the denial of political rights for quite a long time, and I think that when they put the jackboot in after removing Article 370, it might have been necessary then, but I really believe that they've done a lot of things wrong since then. I actually approve of the removal of Article 370, but I think that the denial of political rights was not a good idea, because you need to be able to put some salve on the wound of the removal of a special status. So, I think there's a lot going on, and I think the election results might tell us what it is that's going on.
And in a way, it is your perhaps argument that this kind of street protest, this time against Israel, might be something to do with repressed sentiment, that is to do with something else. And this is just, Kashmiris coming out and expressing themselves. And there's certainly one leader who actually belonged to Engineer Rashid's party who told me that these elections are the unlocking of a collective suffocation of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. So one doesn't know exactly what's going on. We'll ask Najmu in just a moment. But in the meantime, chants of Hezbollah have been heard on the streets of Kashmir, which actually logically doesn't really make a lot of sense. We didn't hear chants of 370 Wapis Lao in the way that we're hearing Hezbollah. I'll play a small clip from some of the protest sites. Take a look, and then we'll come to Najmu Saqib. Now, Najmu Saqib, you're a young leader of the PDP. Why are we hearing chants praising a militia? It is a militia backed by Iran, a proxy for Iran. Whatever be your views on Israel, and you can have any view on Israel, what you think of Israel's action in Gaza, whether you think it's disproportionate force, whether you think civilian life is in, the large-scale civilian loss of life in Gaza raises all sorts of moral questions, and that would be a different debate. But why are these chants of Hezbollah, why the heroism around Hassan Nasrallah, who effectively heads a private militia that is seen by most of the world as a terror organization? Najmu.
Look, Barkha, I think what is happening in Kashmir is a complete sense of helplessness. That we, for last so many months, we are seeing people of Palestine being slaughtered mercilessly, schools decimated, hospitals bulldozed, thousands of children killed, maimed, their dreams destroyed, millions, lakhs of people displaced. So what we're seeing in Kashmir is a complete mourning or a protest. It is a solidarity with the people of Palestine and those who stand by the people of Palestine. I think there is absolutely nothing wrong. When in Bangladesh, there were a lot of people in India who felt that Hindu community is not being protected, and they were on the streets, they were on the social media talking about it. So all we are doing in Kashmir is remembering and expressing solidarity with the people of Palestine. As far as Hezbollah is concerned, look, we have to look at the genesis of Hezbollah. There was a sectarian civil war in Lebanon. So it is a byproduct of that civil war. I mean, Hezbollah did not emerge out of vacuum, or Hezbollah was, it is a proxy of Iran. There's no doubt about it. I mean, in Kashmir also, there on in sectarian within a certain community, he has a fan following, and there are people who actually love him within that particular community. Whether you brand him as a terrorist, I don't think so. Ministry of
But
External
doesn't
Affairs
that
or Government of
disturb
India.
you? But
I
doesn't
don't
that
think Ministry of
disturb you?
I think look, Barkha, with your and Tavleen ji's definition, I think Government of India has not branded Hezbollah as a terrorist. If last I checked, so I think
Hmm.
in my opinion, those I mean it was a leader of a minority community protecting his own interest, protecting his own rights within a certain when there was a civil war in Lebanon. But as far as look, we are in Kashmir, we empathize with the people of Kashmir. We because we are people of conflict again. We have seen how conflict decimates,
Hmm.
destroys lives. Thousands of our youngsters are still lying in graves. There are mothers who are wailing still after 10 years of remembering their sons. And we see what is happening in Palestine, and we see the silence of the world community. And there are double standards in Ukraine. When in Ukraine, they galvanize the whole world for that particular context.
But Najmu, I'm struck by the fact that if you look at the large parts of the Muslim world, the Arab nations, in Abu Dhabi, film awards were being hosted, which all of Bollywood was attending. They didn't come to most of these sort of Gulf countries have they may have made some sort of token noises, but they've not really opened their doors for example, refugees from Gaza, right? You have an election. Your immediate reality, your immediate priority is the restoration of your political rights. Why are we seeing more noise around Hezbollah than around I don't know Article 370, for instance? I'm
Look,
just curious to understand.
look, Barkha, I mean, you remember you're a very, very senior journalist. You have experienced and seen entire conflicts around the world in Kashmir as well. And I mean, our country, India, was a champion and was a conscience keeper of every victim in the world, starting from non-aligned movement. And what we want our country is to raise our voice for the people of Palestine. I mean, this is not a country of, for people of one particular religion. This is a people of, this is a democracy. This is a diverse nation. We want our country to speak up if there are human rights violations happening, as Prime Minister Modi rightly did mention about Ukraine. But his silence about Palestine is also deafening, is also hurting us. So what we want is Government of India should take a serious note. I mean, we thank Government of India for sending aid to the people of Palestine, and we hope they increase and they do, speak to multiple parties and stakeholders there. But what we also need to realize is that an entire region is again being lit up. These It has multiplied effect. It has ramifications across the world. So what we don't want to see is a repeat of 80s, where the entire Muslim world was in
Okay.
up in flames. So it has ramifications for us. You have to understand. What happened in Afghanistan had ramification for us. What happened after post Iran revolution had ramifications for us. So there are serious ramifications, and we want Government of India to sort of take it seriously. And that is why, and please, Barkhaf, don't brand an expression of sympathy or sorrow as something
Okay, we lost Najmu there. I'm sure he'll reconnect. He's on the is somewhere in a remote part of the Kashmir Valley. Before I come to Ambassador Dayal and General Katoch, Tavleen, briefly do go ahead. I think there's an important point he raises about even the Hamas is not officially designated as a terror organization by the government of India. What, of course, we see what happened on October 7th, and we're approaching its 1 year anniversary as an act of terror. But that classification, he's correct to question there. Do go ahead. You wanted to respond to what he was saying. Can we unmute Tavleen, please? Tavleen, I can't hear you. Let me just unmute you. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One is that the whole of the Muslim world is not actually up in arms over the killing of Nasrallah, number one. And why is it that we never see the same sympathy? We're approaching the first anniversary of the attack on Israel, which started this war. Right? And so how is it that the Kashmiris have shown no sympathy for them? So, and whether India calls Nasrallah a terrorist or not, a lot of other countries do. And just as we would be upset if say, Kassab's, hanging was celebrated or was mourned in another country. You've got to admit that there is a difference between people who live by the gun, who I mean, if he's killed, he was actually a man who picks up the gun to kill innocent people is a terrorist. So whether the
Yeah.
Indian government does it or not, it doesn't matter.
So this is, of course, one of the most polarizing issues in the world. The world is grappling with how to look at what Israel is doing, Israel's actions, whether they're proportionate, not proportionate, whether they set a template for how other countries can and should react. Ambassador Dayal, the fact is that Israel is expanding its footprint of aggression. That, whichever side of the debate you're on, we've gone from Gaza now to Lebanon. We've gone from Lebanon to the Houthis in Yemen, airstrikes on Houthi bases in Yemen today. Prime Minister Modi met with Mahmoud Abbas. India has tried to walk a kind of balancing line here, has called for an end to civilian killings, has also sent relief and help for civilians, but has somehow been seen to be softer on Israel than was historically true. How do you see India's position? Do you find it has calibrated at all? Do you find it has shifted at all? Ambassador Dayal.
Well, first of all, let me clarify two important issues. Firstly, when one of the speakers said that Prime Minister Modi has not said anything in support of the Palestinian people and their sufferings, let me state that while the Prime Minister condemned the terrorist attack on October 7 by Hamas against Israel, at the same time, he's been extremely vocal about the sufferings of the Palestinian people, and he has said that these sufferings should be brought to an end. India has also sent relief supplies to the people of Gaza. Secondly, the PDP's stand is absolutely hurtful and incorrect because Iltija Mufti, the daughter of Mehbooba Mufti, made a controversial statement comparing the situation in Kashmir to that of Gaza and Lebanon. That I find is highly objectionable, and I think it has drawn a sharp response. Now, as regards India's position in regard to what is happening between Israel and its, the difficulties or the attackers on three fronts, that is the Hezbollah, the Hamas, and the Houthi. Israel is fighting already on three fronts. India has all along said that this is not an era of war. India has tried to counsel all parties to take recourse to dialogue and diplomacy. But things have really gone out of hand. I think that the Israelis have decided that enough is enough, and that the October 7 attack really pushed them to the limit. So, I don't think that there is anything that India can do to restrain Israel. Israel has good relations with India, but India can't stop Israel from carrying out actions which it considers necessary for the protection of its own people. Now, let me mention that I'm afraid that this war could expand even further. Israel is fighting on three fronts. There is a possibility of a fourth front opening in Syria and Iraq, where there are Shiite militant groups backed by Iran, and they could step in and also mount attacks against Israel. And even further, Iran could step in. Now, there are indications that Iran is holding back because it doesn't want to get directly involved. It wants its proxies to do the fighting, but Iran is afraid that if it gets directly involved, then even the United States would become a party to the war, and then the consequences for Iran would be terrible. So, what can India do in this situation? India has been counseling all parties to hold restraint, to exercise restraint, but things are beyond our control. There is nothing really which we can do because the fighting has escalated so high. Now, Hezbollah is not going to stop fighting because it knows that Israel is out to destroy it. And at the same time, the Houthis will keep mounting attacks. So, this war which Israel is fighting on three fronts is not going to come to an end. And we can only hope and we can counsel Iran to exercise restraint and not get involved because that would mean the widening of the conflict very, very much more.
Well, Ambassador Dayal, there have also been tensions. I don't know where Ambassador Dayal went. I hope he can reconnect. There have also been tensions with Iran after Iran made a comment comparing Muslims in India to those in Myanmar and Gaza. So there's also been that friction unfolding. I do want to bring in General Katoch. I know, Najmu, you want to respond to everything you've heard, but just give us a moment. General Katoch hasn't spoken yet. General Katoch, go ahead. On the one hand, Ambassador Dayal makes the argument that there's nothing India can do. India has spoken out of the suffering of the civilians in Palestine, but there's nothing, like even the Americans aren't able to restrain Israel at this point. Israel has literally and metaphorically tasted blood. The pager explosions, then the elimination of Hassan Nasrallah, now the Houthis in Yemen. How should India be reacting, and how concerned are you about the street protests in the Kashmir Valley? General Katoch.
Thank you, Barkha. Barkha, let me start with firstly the street protests which have taken place in Kashmir. In my view, it is totally uncalled for. I have no problems with the political parties expressing their stand, but for the political parties to instigate protests of this nature, close down certain parts of the city in support of a terrorist, I think is absolutely unacceptable. In my view, it was these same people, especially the Abdullahs, who were responsible for the genocide which took place of a small Hindu population in Kashmir. And the biggest shame of that, which I think this community will have to live down, is that at that point of time, it was the common Muslims who had been friends with their Hindu neighbors for generations. They took part in the slaughter. They took part in the rape, in the loot, and in ensuring that their Hindu brethren went out. I agree when people say that Muslims have also suffered in Kashmir, but not one Muslim has suffered because he was a Muslim. The Hindus suffered because of their religious identity. The Muslims suffered because of other reasons, not because of their religious identity. Now, leaving that aside, and I don't support what they have done there, I still give the Mehbooba Mufti and Abdullahs the right to hold their private protests. They can say, we don't like it. But to close down the city, no. I will never ever condone that. Getting down to the second part of what you have said, you see, on the 7th of October last year, for the first time in history, we have armed groups actually attacking civilians, destroying the houses, not attacking the military, attacking the civilians, destroying the houses, raping, looting. Even small babies were bayoneted and burnt. This even animals do not do. They are worse than savages. And I think no God will ever forgive them for that act of savagery, which is unacceptable under any circumstances. And the very next day, the Hezbollah started firing missiles onto Israel on the 8th of October, and they continued with that attack on civilian targets, not on the military targets, on the civilian targets. They continued for close to 10 to 11 months, and now the attacks have taken place on them. So for these people who have been attackers for so long and hiding in their safe hides, and
Yeah.
now they're coming out and saying, what has Israel done with the
General Katoch, if I may say to you, I do agree that October 7th was a clear act of terrorism. I went at that point to report on it. But since then, it's been a year. It's coming to a year. And if you look at the numbers, even with some disputes, many call this an unequal conflict. The Palestinians say that more than 40,000 people are dead in Palestine. And according to the Israel government, 1,700 thereabouts are dead in Israel. To those who say that the moral debate has shifted, it is shifted from the 7th of October. You can't apply the template you did when the Hamas came in and went for families and babies and women and children in the kibbutzes. There is that question to consider. And what would you say to that? I mean, India has to, just like on Russia, Ukraine, India has shifted its position. Shouldn't India be shifting its position on Israel-Palestine?
No. On the Israel-Palestine question, India's position has been very consistent, and I support that position. We have consistently said that we want a homeland for the Palestinian people, and we have also said that we want that homeland for Israel. But unfortunately, and I've discussed with many people here also in the foundation, just recently we had, I won't mention who had come. And, when it comes to the question of Israel, there are people who say they have no right to exist. The Iranian leader, Khamenei, has consistently said, we will drive them into the sea, we will eliminate them. The Hamas and the Hezbollah have been saying, from the river to the sea, they will eliminate, Palestine will be free. Now listen, if the Israelis don't have a right to live, they will fight for that right. I think there is absolutely no doubts in my mind. They have a right to live. They have a right to the land. So
I think India...
Just one very, 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 very small point. You see, the question was, if I take the same scale of, in percentage terms, of what Hamas has done to Israel on the 7th of October, it will come down to 1 million people being killed in India on a similar scale. What should India do then? What is the proportionate response? People tell me, what is proportionate? I said, you tell me. You come to my villages, you kill innocent women and children, and then you ask for proportionate? In my terms, a proportionate response is destroy them completely.